With new stricter environmental regulations entering into force, a commitment by the shipping industry to reduce its carbon emissions has never been more pressing. Katie Haswell has this report.
Shipping keeps the world moving, carrying huge volumes of trade around the globe, supplying people in every nation with food, electricity and much more every day. But the industry is facing more challenges than ever before, from meeting increasing demand to cutting its emissions.
As one ship owner said to me, we all breathe the same air. And I think that's a really pertinent thing. So, we've got this, how do we cope with the sort of world growth and trade and growth? How do we then cope with the environmental issues? How do we make sure we're a safe industry? So there's a lot of these challenges which we need to confront in order to make sure we're sustainable for the future.
Shipping emits around 2.5% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, as much as Germany, and roughly 15% of all nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides.
The shipping industry has been accused of being a dirty industry environmentally. I think there is some justification historically in that, but there is no doubt now the shipping industry understands how important this is. A number of regulations have been passed, and companies are realising that it is in their interest to get very fuel-efficient, clean ships.
New regulations by the International Maritime Organization and the EU are designed to reduce the environmental impact of vessels and reduce their harmful emissions.
The shipping industry is taking an extremely proactive approach in terms of carbon emissions. In fact, shipping organisations have gone as far as asking the regulator to set even more stringent targets.
To reduce the impact of UK ships on the planet and confirm the maritime industry's commitment to being green, the UK Chamber of Shipping is drafting an environmental resolution.
We're setting out a series of goals within that, covering everything from emissions to plastics to protection of animals, and very clearly setting up goals of where we have zero tolerance, so we would like to see achieving a zero line, where we want to minimise an impact, and where we can perhaps improve things in terms of training and going forward for the future.
At University College London, delegates gather at the Shipping in Changing Climates conference. The academics' findings show that alternative fuels can help in decarbonising shipping, but in order to reduce its emissions in line with the Paris Agreement, shipping will need to emit 50% less carbon by 2050. To do this, vessels will need new propulsion technologies.
Fundamentally, what the sector needs to do is move away from fossil fuels. So heavy fuel oil, marine distillate oil, even liquid natural gas, which is being pointed to as a potential solution at the moment, needs to be moved away from in the next few decades to being replaced with either sources of bioenergy or synthetic fuels, or even batteries and electrification.
It certainly will come at a cost because technologies are not necessarily cheap, and the research and development that goes into those technologies is most certainly not cheap, and we'll need to look at ways to ensure that actually the people who are paying for the transportation of the goods actually pay for the additional fuel costs or technology costs, because they can't all be borne just by the shipping company alone. But it is absolutely achievable.
Hurricanes rip through the Caribbean and the US, leaving devastation in their wake. These are the very real effects of climate change. Destruction from rising sea levels and storms brought by changing weather patterns directly impacts the shipping industry. As the seas rise, it takes smaller and smaller extreme events to cause damage.
The infrastructure around the coast of the UK is quite critical to our economy. We have a large number of ports. There's a number of things that can be done. I think, first of all, planning. I mean, it's happening over decades. So as long as we start to recognise this issue now and make preparations, we can probably deal with most of it. It essentially means raising the port area. When you renew a port, which you typically do every 30 odd years, you can actually re-engineer it to deal with higher sea levels and keep on doing that.
Shipping is already the greenest way to transport cargo in bulk, but its environmental performance needs improvement. If those in UK shipping can navigate the complex seas of innovation and regulation, the changes they make will benefit the whole world.